shouldn't do that. Like, I don't. Okay, now it looks like we're live. Yep, we are live. Okay.
All right. Well, sorry for the
Sorry for the
delay.
delay, everybody. We had some technical difficulties, but we are now live. Jim,
Mike,
our friend Mike Simpson,
surprise.
Dave, and we are one half of Keystone State Paranormal Society. We're coming to you live from the beautiful and already active Harrison House Bed and Breakfast in Columbus, Ohio. We want to thank the owner, Lynn, for allowing us to come in a night early. We have an investigation scheduled for tomorrow and Saturday, but she was gracious enough to invite us a day early, so we took a chance to do it.
And we got an okay for a live feed, right?
Yes, we did.
So we will be having live feeds.
Yes, we will. Welcome in Holly, Kristen, Debbie, Jennifer,
While we came
Kathy,
in today,
Michael,
we called Mike,
Becky,
asked him how close he was to the Harrison house. Turns out,
and he lied to us.
Yeah.
He said 12 minutes. It's actually 15.
like,
I can't add.
and then we asked Lynn if she'd
Numbers are
mind
hard.
if we had a friend Mike over, and she goes, "That scallywag." No, she's good friends with Mike, so he'd come over. We've had a bite, and before we came on, we were upstairs, and already having some very interesting time.
A music box that would not stop. Ovalis is Mike's phone and mine reading out several different things. Movement on furniture already.
Yeah, that's
So,
what the lamp was made.
This place is already active. And Lola, if you get a chance to tune in, it was active in your bedroom.
Yeah, your room's going to
Ah.
be really set up for tomorrow
so-
night.
Enjoy that. Welcome in Linda Bird, Debbie Dickey, Simon Smith. This guy tunes in every show we do. He's from Scotland.
I remember Simon.
So he is 6 hours ahead of us. So he gets up that early in the morning to watch us before he goes to work. So
awesome. Thank you.
very,
So-
very cool.
Tonight, and I guess we'll be having him call in shortly. Our guest is Rob Gutro,
Yeah.
whose book, he's actually got a couple books, but
This is
the one I've been reading, Pets in the
there we
Afterlife,
go. That's in the afterlife.
and just a fascinating read. And
Hi, Paulette.
we'll try to get in a lot of your questions. I know during this whole period, with everybody having to deal with the COVID, so many friends and associates we know have had to go through the task of putting down a dear and loving pet. And obviously that is such a traumatic thing. So Rob addresses that and even addresses the question
Wow.
of like,
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Lizzie says greetings from Salzburg. You know where Salzburg is?
Austria.
Austria.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Very cool. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining
Very
in,
nice,
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Stephanie White Haggerty, my Bash princess. Hello.
Love it, Austria.
So, and one of the things we'll talk to Rob about tonight is just on that. Is
Linda
that
Dix, welcome in.
so oftentimes when
Mystical.
people, Linda just recently had to put down a beloved pet.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, Mike's going
McGinnis,
to ask
welcome in.
Rob some questions. His good associate with one of his teams is had
Samantha, welcome.
that had to do that terrible task.
Joe, just today, wasn't it? Or yesterday?
1 week ago.
1 week
Today.
ago. Okay.
Rest in peace, Lenny, her cat.
And
Well, and for the first time ever, Jim and I got a taste of good old Tim
Tim
Hortons
Hortons,
coffee.
that's Mike's favorite.
That's
Big.
That's Mike's mailing address actually, is the Tim Hortons here in.
Yeah, very
One
often
of them,
we
anyway.
didn't know if he'd moved, and we just sent.
I do tend to sleep there. If you,
We sent a courier to Tim. He's done shows from Tim Hortons,
Yes, they do love me.
and it's really good seeing Mike
Brooke
today.
from Pittsburgh, welcome.
He's going to be
Jennifer from Massachusetts.
Mike's
welcome.
going to be
Cheryl,
out
welcome.
this weekend with his group. And where are you doing, Mike?
With Ghost Hunts USA, I will be at the Fairfield County Infirmary in Lancaster, Ohio. A
Yes,
very
this is him.
intriguing place.
That's probably him.
Welcome in, Rob.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Great.
My name's Dave. We have a friend of ours lives in the area, Mike Simpson, and Jim is here as well. And we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on to the show with us.
Well, I am very pleased to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
We're in Columbus, Ohio tonight. We got an invite up here to the Harrison House. It's a bed and breakfast, and we're actually giving a little plug here and stuff. And before we got on the line, we were just up in stairs in one of the rooms, and there was a lady up there who couldn't get off the music box. She just kept it going. You'd almost have to beg her to get off for a second, and she would. And then Mike made the issue of asking for only 1 second, and that was about all she gave. So, so it's the house. This beautiful house. They've got 5 bedrooms with facilities, and then I think there's an extra room too. So this is pretty neat, and oddly enough, I mean, we were talking about this. We've had so many friends who during this COVID thing have had to tackle the task of putting down their loved companion for various. And a matter of fact, the one gal that Mike does work with in their group, she just had to put her cat down a week ago. So,
Oh my gosh.
so yeah, it's a really timely topic. And then I was sorry to hear that you had to put Dolly down. And it's weird. I'm reading your book, and here you're discussing Dolly when Dolly was the new dog, and the interference that occurred when your old dog was still around.
Yes. Yeah. So I will say that I'm very fortunate to. Dolly is a Weimaraner for the folks listening, and she lived to be 15 years and almost 11 months old, which is
amazing.
Well past
Right.
the age for any Weimaraner.
Yeah, I think that like 10 to 12 years is in the normal range.
Yes. Yeah. So we're very fortunate.
Yes, you were. But so anyhow, I guess if you could give us a little introduction of yourself and how when you first became aware of some of your gifts and abilities, and how you sort of melded into this, and we'll go from there.
Okay, sure. I first discovered that I had some kind of ability when I was a teenager, and my grandfather decided to show up about 6 or 7 months after he died, in full color. So he scared the daylights out of me, and
Any questions?
it turns out my mother had the ability too, so it ran in my family, my mother's side. I didn't really pay much attention to it until my puppy named Buzz passed away in 2005. And he became the world's best canine communicator from the afterlife. So he taught me how animals communicate, pets communicate from the other side, and how I can recognize signs. So I wrote 2 books to teach people what signs to look for.
And we've posted the names of your books, and actually, like I said, the Pets in the Afterlife is the one I got and read, and answers so many questions, and is very enlightening. I'd like to read. This is from your book, and I guess maybe this sort of is a statement for tonight's show. And I thought it was very touching. You wrote in your book, "I hope by reading this book, you will come to realize that your beloved pet is still around you, and that you begin to develop for yourself the ability to recognize signs of their presence and reinforcement of their unconditional love for you." And that's wonderful. I mean, that's I know I messaged you today how my wife and I had lost an infant son to SIDS several years ago. And
Yeah.
obviously it's devastating. And then she wound up really sort of on her own to get us out of the funk. She wound up adopting 2 greyhound dogs off the racetrack. And those dogs were so instrumental at giving us a conduit to share our love that we had, and really helped us over these very difficult times.
Yeah, but there's nothing like the love of a dog to help us when we're grieving. They really do give us unconditional love, and that is a true gift. And that love is the thing that actually binds us together when they're on the other side. So it's all about energy, and love is an emotional energy, positive emotional energy.
Now, would you agree that animals can sense in their owners, especially dogs, can sense in their owners when they're sad, when they're sick, when they're happy, and react accordingly? So, for example, you come home from work in a good mood, they come in and they're jumping and let's play, and we haven't seen you all day, and they're so excited to see you. But then if the next day, say you wake up and you call out because you're sick, they're just as satisfied to just lay in bed next to you and just nuzzle up and cuddle with you.
Sure, absolutely. So what they're doing is they are reading your energy, and that they're reading your emotional energy. And a little bit more background about me. I'm not a full-time medium. I actually use my abilities whenever I can to help people. But during the day, I'm a scientist. I'm actually a meteorologist.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
yeah, so don't blame me for the weather.
Okay.
But,
I was just about to, Rob. It's been raining cats and dogs here. Yeah, just kidding.
yeah, that would be
Funny.
the remnants of Hurricane Zeta,
Right.
I believe.
Right.
Yeah, we're getting it here in Maryland. But as a scientist, the basis for my books are energy. And what I found is that ghosts, earthbound ghosts who stay here, and spirits that cross over, like those of our pets, are all energy coupled with memories, personality, and knowledge. And when we die, we choose to either stay here in a fixed location of our choosing, and that's what I call a ghost, which is likely what you're encountering right there in that
Yeah.
historic place. And spirits are the ones that cross over. So they go into the light, or heaven, Valhalla, whatever you want to call the other side. And spirits actually can come to us any place, anytime around the world. But ghosts can only communicate with us in the location that they decided to stay in.
Huh.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
And I should mention while we're here, there is I'm not sure if it's ghost or spirit, a cat. We're going to say, for the sake of argument right now, a ghost cat.
Mhm.
And it's been real active this week. Lynn, the owner of the establishment, was telling us at least 3 times this week it's been around her legs and rubbing up and everything else. And it's been real active, the cat.
So I can tune into energy even from afar, because really energies are energies just stream from place to place. And when you're talking to me on the phone, there's energy streaming through. So is that cat often felt or sensed in the room with the dark fireplace?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah,
Bingo.
I think so. Yeah.
And that's
Between here
where
and the
that's
kitchen,
that room is sort of the dining room area here, and the kitchen is just through the doors, and that's where Lynn's been picking up. So you're spot on with that call.
And that's
Oh, good to know.
that's very cool, because actually one of our viewers had just asked if they weren't sure how your abilities work. We have 2 mediums or sensitives on our team, and they perceive energy and they pick up on things in different ways. Janet lives out in Carson City, Nevada, and she's very adept at just being at home and calling us and saying, hey, when you go to this next location, this is going to be there, and I picked up on this and this. Haley can do that to an extent, but a lot of times she works better when she's on location and can get a feel of the place itself. So one of our viewers had asked, your abilities, do they work, I guess, remotely? Like you just, obviously they do. You just demonstrated that.
Nailed it.
Like, would you be able to talk to one of our viewers, say if they message you or something, or talk to you on the phone, and you would be able to tell them, yes, I'm picking up on this animal. Is that your past loved one, or something of that nature?
Yeah, for the most part, I could. There is an issue though when people have multiple pets on the other side,
Right.
because a lot of them want to talk at the same time. So
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I need to know the name of the pet and what they look like so that I can identify what they are.
Cool.
Gotcha. And you know what, Jim, you know as well as I do, when my dog Hawkeye, when he passes, look out every other dog that I've ever
Yeah,
had, because he is the attention whore, and he's just going to be pushing them all to the side to make sure he knows I'm there. So,
And listen, through this evening, Rob, obviously go wherever you'd like, but there's so many, I mean, from your book, there's so many neat avenues that as time allows, I'd like to touch base on. And as I messaged you this morning, I know we're not going to get it done in the format, so we really we'll be looking to set you up in the future too, because this affects so many people, and especially right now in these difficult times.
Sure.
and especially if you're coming from Maryland, because I'm born and bred in Maryland. Jim grew up.
Well, DC. I was born in DC.
So my parents still live in Maryland. So
Again, reading on here, Rob in his book went on to state here, our souls are living energy, and we are connected both here and in the physical realm and in the spiritual realm. So, so much of this is energy speaking to energy.
And the fascinating thing about that, at least for me, Rob, is being the tech guy, the one who does all the technical stuff here, the equipment, that type of thing, having very limited abilities as far as picking up on energy or anything like that. I like to approach it from the scientific point of view of, I learned in middle school science, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So who's to say that the energy that is inhabiting this shell, this physical body that we have, when that physical body is done and wears out and ceases to be, that energy goes somewhere. Why wouldn't it be feasible, but that is the energy we are contacting on the other side?
That's absolutely correct. That is exactly what it is. And as I mentioned, we are the ones that determine where that energy goes, where we go with that energy, whether we stay earthbound as a ghost or cross over as a spirit. And just kind of building on that, what I've also learned is that ghosts and spirits need energy to get strong enough to give you signs. So they use physical energies and they use emotional energies. Both of them use heat, light, water, and electricity. Just like they drain your batteries when you're at a paranormal investigation, or they play with the electrical system, or something like that. But they also use emotional energies. Now, ghosts are really negative, more negative energy, so it has no reflection on their personality. But they get strengthened by fear, anxiety, depression,
Yeah, exactly.
and anger.
And they feed off of that. Yeah.
Negative emotions.
Yeah. And spirits draw off of faith, hope, and love.
Yep.
Makes
And
sense.
that makes sense in every situation we've ever encountered. We encountered at the time was the ghost of a little girl in a haunted location in Ohio, and we believe after that first encounter with us, she crossed over, and now Whenever we're at a location that I feel a little uncomfortable or I just feel off, something's not right here, I can just think of her and she's there to comfort me. And she's like my fourth daughter. You know?
We're getting a number of our viewers tonight saying they'd like to get the book and all that. So I'm going to break in 1 second again. I've been doing the promo again. And it's Rob Gutro, Gutro is the author. And this is Pets in the Afterlife. And he also has another book addressing these. This is one I can speak directly to because I've read it.
So the other one's Pets in the Afterlife 2. And in January, I'm actually publishing Pets in the Afterlife 3. Because
All right. Great.
There you go.
Keep talking from the other side.
So that's for anybody. And then I got mine through Amazon, but I've, through most of your normal outlets, it is available. And especially if you have that special affinity with your friends, and it touches Rob touches all avenues, even horses and cats and dogs.
Which is what hooked you, Mr. Equine.
Yeah, I have a special place for horses. So, and I'm going to read another two little sayings from your book, which I thought just really hit me. It said, people and animals have the ability to convey messages to the living. And this was, I thought, interesting. And if you could talk a little about that. Spirits of our pets often do lead us to the next pet we should adopt.
Yes, that is very true. And there's also, you can also throw reincarnation in the mix too. So one of the questions I get often is, will my dog or cat come back as another dog or cat when I'm still here? And the answer to that is typically no. Our dogs and cats and horses and whatever pets we have will wait on the other side until we have passed to greet us. And then when everybody that they know in this life has crossed, we will all come back connected to each other. So one of the things that they do on the other side is they do lead us to another pet that we are supposed to adopt. And I have encountered many people who have had that same experience. And I'll tell you just one quick story. A woman had a dog, and the dog's name was Bullet. And she said that she was devastated after Bullet had passed. And she promised herself that she was not ready to get another dog. She would not get another dog. She needed time to heal. And she said one day she was driving by the SPCA shelter and something nudged her to go in. So she pulled in. She said, mindlessly, I went in. I don't know why. And I walked through all the cages, got to the last cage, and I bent down. And I fell in love with this little dog. And the dog's name was Trigger. And she said, I knew that Bullet had led me to Trigger.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, now those are the two names of the Roy Rogers, Dale Evans horses, by the way. But,
Yeah.
Yep.
and she said, there is absolutely no way I would have ever known a dog by that name was in the shelter. I didn't even think
Right.
about a dog. So that's how it works.
And I know that, one thing that I really found interesting, you were discussing the intelligence level of particular dogs. And I think if I've got my facts correct, most dogs equivalent to about a 4-year-old's intelligence as far as knowledge of words or phrases or hand motions. So that intelligence obviously is an important factor in utilizing the energy to convey messages.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Dr. Stanley Coren is someone that I reference often. He wrote a couple of books called The Intelligence of Dogs and How Dogs Think. And he did extensive research on how the many levels that dogs will learn, like instinctual learning, social learning, language learning, routines, all kinds of things. So I will say that animals animals had been on this earth long before people ever decided to show up. And, they lived, they lived a good life and died without our help. So they're pretty intelligent. They know how to survive in the wild. But there's also the same emotional intelligence, and that was also cited in the book too.
I actually have a question, and I don't know if this is a scenario that's played out for anybody else, but I know this scenario is specific to me, definitely. When I was young, we had two purebred German Shepherds, a female and a male. They got the female before I was born, and she reached full adulthood before they got the male. So when we got the male as a puppy, after I was born, he looked at her as a mother figure. And when she passed of old age, he went into a deep depression and would just go and lay in her spot. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't do anything, didn't want to play, nothing. So we thought there was something wrong. And so I had accepted the fact that we were going to have to put him down. So the day I went with my father to take him to the pound to be put down, as we pulled in and got out, another car pulled in 2 spaces down. A little girl got out, and he came running out of the truck and took off after this little girl. And I immediately thought that he was going to like maul her or something, but he ran up to her and kissed and licked all over her like she was his owner for 100 years. And so rather than put him down, they were there to get a dog. We let them take him, and they lived on the Eastern Shore and had a whole big area for him to roam free and run. And we visited him once, and he didn't come running at us like, oh, look who's here. But he definitely remembered our scent. He didn't bark or anything. But again, now this was 30 plus years ago. So I'm assuming at this point, he's either crossed over or he is the longest living German Shepherd in the history of the planet. So it's kind of a 2-part question. One, may he have been a reincarnated animal that knew her, the little girl? And 2, now that he's crossed over but spent the second half of his life with them, would he still remember me when I cross over?
So the answer to both questions is yes. So it would appear that he knew her from a previous life.
Okay.
So that's really perceptive of you. And the second thing is he will remember you once in spirit. Once you're in spirit, he will remember you, because the love that you shared with him acts like a tether to you. So pets can be bonded to several people. It doesn't matter. Just like they're bonded to several people in your family.
Okay.
So if you have a pet and the pet had a great life with you, they will always be linked to you. But since the pet also had a great life later with that little girl and her family, he'll also be linked to their family as well.
Okay.
Now, we have one viewer tonight, a Catherine Gonzalez German, and she's relating, I guess there was 2 cats that her and her husband were very close to, and she was saying it still hurts to think about everything that happened to them. So I'm just going to throw out to Catherine, if you would put down the name of those cats and a slight description of those cats, we'll be glad to ask Rob about those to see if he picks up on anything. My sister keyed in the question. She said, is there any truth in the Rainbow Bridge?
I get that question a lot. And
Okay.
well, the Rainbow Bridge is actually it's not real per se, but it was created so that we, as the living, would get a comfortable picture of where we go, and that really is for everybody, not just pets. It's also for people. So as energy on the other side, as energy on the other side, pets are not going to be running through fields and playing with toys or doing anything, and humans are not going to be doing jobs on the other side, because that's not how it works. They're energy. However, when they communicate with me, they sometimes share those kinds of pictures because that's what we can relate to. We can't relate to energy flowing across the universe, but we can relate to nice pictures of fields of flowers and rainbows
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
something like that.
So it's symbolic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to touch base, and we have a lot of the viewers tonight are expressing how it still hurts. You know, over the years they've had various cats and dogs, and it still hurts. So we're going to touch base, and for the audience, it's in the book how you become perceptive to
The
to
signs that
and
those
that awareness
crossover loved ones are showing.
awareness that your pets are there, and that and to have that definitely helps in the healing process and in the knowledge. Now I know the answer to this, but I'm going to go. I'd like your explanation for everyone. Our friend Colette says, "Do animals have feelings?"
Absolutely. I think that they have more feelings than humans, actually. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say animals don't have souls, and that is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I love
hogwash.
your expounding on that in the book.
Hogwash.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because what a soul is, it's basically our energy coupled with our memories, our personality, and our knowledge. And that is what a soul is. So every living thing has a soul. That said, one of the studies that I cited in my books is by Dr. Gregory Burns. He's from Emory University. He was a neuroscientist. And he was sick and tired of hearing that ridiculous statement. So he trained his dog and dogs of his lab mates to sit still for an MRI. Now, have any of you guys had an MRI?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
too many.
Yeah, it's kind of unnerving, isn't it, sitting there that long listening to the humming?
Well, luckily now they give you music, but yes, it's definitely not a comfortable position to be in.
Well, you go to a good place because I never had music. well, anyway, needless to say, these scientists train several dogs to sit still for like 20, 25 minutes in an MRI. And the pet parents would bring treats to the dog, and they would scan the brain of the dog with the MRI. And then strangers would bring treats to the dog and scan the brain. And what they found is that the caudate section of the brain, the same as in humans, lit up when the pet parent came to the dog, showing the emotion of love, same as it does in human beings. So he has proven scientifically with brain scans that pets have the same emotions as human beings. So there you go.
That is
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody here had any doubts about that, but
Right.
the fact that there's a scientific study that proved it, that's outstanding.
I just want to let you know that the questions are coming in rather
Heavy.
quickly. Yeah, you really got a captive audience here tonight, and again, we want to thank you, Floss, because like I said, this is a subject that's near and dear to so many. Going back to Catherine, she describes those two cats that she was inquiring about. The one's name was Sammy. And Sammy was a seal point Siamese, dark colored, and she was around 11 years old when they adopted her. So it was an older cat. And the other cat was named Yucky, Yukki, and Yucky was all white. And Yucky was around 9 years old when they adopted Yucky.
Okay. So it's Sammy and Yucky.
Yes.
Okay. What did she say what she wanted to know about?
Well,
that?
I guess evidently they must have gone through a lot, and considering the life they had, I guess before they got them and everything, it just, I guess they're grieving. The cats have been gone for a while, but they're still grieving at their loss. And I guess if you can pick up anything about their energies, or, I know sometimes a friend of mine does a lot of work with animal rescue, and she operates a no-kill shelter. And sometimes she's able to bring even months of an idyllic life into an animal that's been abused for years. I don't know how she does it. She's an amazing woman, and my God, she has a heart so large. I always tell her that when it's her time and she crosses, she's going to have a zoo waiting for her, and I do believe that. But
That's true.
but I guess that's where they're sort of going. If you get any feel for Sammy and Yucky and I guess their status or how they're about.
Sure. So I had to bring up what a seal point Chinese looks like on the computer because I'm not sure. I'm a dog dad, and so there are two physical things that those two cats are sharing with me. One of them had issues with their back right leg and kind of a numbness and an issue and it's up to the hip, and the other one is telling me about breathing problems. So I'm not sure if that's accurate with them, and I'm not sure which one it is because it seems like they're both talking to me at the same time.
Okay.
But although they endured some kind of mental trauma as kittens, or they found solace and love with her in her home. So and I'm seeing paws outstretched, which means thank you. Thank you for being there, for making my life really wonderful. Even though it seems like they were both kind of cut short in their life for some reason. It probably relates to the abuse that they suffered when they were younger.
Yeah.
But the love is there. And they are definitely on the other side, and they are definitely around her in spirit.
Well, she answered back here, Catherine. Yes, both had breathing problems near their passing. So you were right on with that. You're amazing, Rob.
One of them had a hip problem, though. One of them had something wrong with their hip or their leg. My leg is still kind of numb. So a couple of things I wanted to mention to you guys for the people who are listening, because the reason I wrote these books is, as you said, to teach people all the ways that pets communicate. And so sometimes you may see a pet out of the corner of your eye. Dreams are the easiest way for you to communicate with your pet or to get messages. So before you go to bed, ask your pet to come into your dreams.
Wow.
And usually over the course of 2 weeks, they will manage to do that. The reason for that is because when we're awake, our logical minds try to explain things away. But when we're sleeping, that logical mind is asleep. And that's why pets have an easier way to get into your dreams. I'll tell you a funny story is that one woman told me that she was really mad at her husband because the dog that she was grieving for only came into his dreams and never in her dreams. Every time he told her, she said to me, I would have a fight with him. And I said, your dog does not want you to have a fight with him. The reason her dog came to her husband is because her husband was dealing better with the grief.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they would probably, the animals were sensitive to her grief and felt that sometimes that contact can be a little too emotional for her to handle and just compound her grief. That makes perfect sense.
Yes. And one of the other very sensitive topics that people talk to me about is the passing of their pet. So I want to address that before we run out of time tonight.
Absolutely.
And before we get into other things. So our pets read our energy. We talked about how they read our emotions. And they know that when we have to take them for that day, that we are suffering from anxiety and depression, and sadness. They can read our energy. But they also want to tell us that they really appreciate us finding the courage to help them pass out of pain. It's really important.
Wow.
And sometimes they may put on a burst of energy before you drive to the vet. My dog Sprite did that. He was 16 and a half. He had a tumor that burst in his nose, and he was 16 and a half, and there was no way to have surgery on him. So we had to make that decision. And he was not eating for days before the tumor burst, and then the tumor burst, and he wouldn't eat, of course. And on the way to the vet, he ate, several of his favorite treats for the first time. And the reason for that is that he was excited that we understood he needed the crossover.
Wow, that's pretty prophetic. Yeah. One of the audience members, it's a really good question. Does an animal's intelligence play a role in their ability to wait for us?
No, they're all going to wait for us because they're all loyal to us. Whether dog, cat, horse, rabbit. I don't know about reptiles. I try not to read reptiles.
It's funny that you said that, though, because one of the animals that person asked the question mentioned was a turtle.
Yeah, nothing against reptiles, but I've not read reptiles, but because they read our energy, they feel our love, and they will wait for us. It's all about energy and reading energy.
I'd like to expounding on that. This is again from your book, so I'm getting it, directly from the author here. And I just thought these were so telling. It says, our pets are a living embodiment of unconditional love. They, like people, possess the same type of energy as humans. When they pass, their energy has the same choice to make in the afterlife as humans, to either join the collective universe or remain earthbound as a ghost. Anyone that tells you that our pets do not have a soul is quite simply uninformed. Our pets are waiting to greet us when it is our time to pass.
Yeah, I have to tell you that my husband edited the word that was there before uninformed.
I didn't think you used that word right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that is true.
As I was reading that, I thought there were some captions.
Little asterisk footnote.
There was some subtext in there, but but seriously, so I would say about 98% of our pets will cross over. It's very rare that they wait earthbound as a ghost. I've only encountered, I think, 2 ghost animals. One on a paranormal investigation, and another one when I went to England and I visited a museum of Sir John Soane's house. And their dog, is a ghost in that museum, which was formerly their house. So your pets have all passed over for the most part.
Well, we have Jim has a pug, and I have a really, really fat Chihuahua, and what we think is a Beagle Sheltie mix that are still alive. My daughter has my one daughter has a bunny, and my other daughter has a house sparrow that we think was pushed out of the nest too early and it couldn't fly, and it was starting to get cold, and she found it out on the driveway, so she brought it in and nursed it back to health, and now it lives in the cage in the house, and quite often it will chirp and peep and scream at us until we open the cage door and just let him fly around the house. And he does that, and then he flies back into his cage when he's hungry. So I mean, we have a collective of animals that are still living, but yeah, Jim, I don't know how many you've lost.
Yeah.
I personally know of 4, 5.
I raised rabbits once, so we had, I've been surrounded by them.
But I know personally you've lost, since I've been around you, 5. And here's another question for me. In the scenario that I gave you that happened as a child, when the female passed and the male was still alive, would when she crossed over, is she waiting for him also, since he looked at her like a mother figure?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
And that, you know
Yeah.
what, that really makes my heart feel good, because I watched him waste away when she was gone without her. Like from a 150-pound German Shepherd to 60 or 70 pounds, you could see his ribs, you could see his pelvis and his hind legs. I mean, he was just literally going to just waste to death. And it makes me feel so good. It brings joy to me to know that he's with her now, and she waited for him, and they're running in some field chasing whatever's over there.
And, I'd like to expand. Rob was talking about how our pets can come to us in a dreamlike state. And a good piece of advice that we've offered anybody, whether it's animals that are coming through to us or loved ones, if you're getting dreams and you have deceased loved ones, whether it be animal or human, it's a good idea to keep a pen and paper close to your bed in a little desk or whatever, so that when you first wake up in the morning and things are fresh in your mind, write it down, because you tend to forget that real quickly sometimes.
You are absolutely right. The dreams tend to fade very fast, and what's important is to be cognizant of what time you wake up from the dream, and also what the date is, because spirits usually give us messages around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays, and that includes pets, because pets read our energy level. They tend to be more elevated around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. So they know those are the times that we want to hear from people and pets on the other side.
Years ago, I actually interviewed a woman. She had lost a cat that she was very close with, and she was having dreams. And in her dreams, the cat has climbed into the bed with her, and she's sitting there stroking and petting the cat like she would do. And then she went and produced for me. Now, mind you, this is a bed sheet made up. It was all clean, goes to sleep. During the night, has this very vivid dream of the cat in the bed with her, and she's stroking it and petting it. When she wakes up in the morning, well, there's no cat there, but what is there is cat hairs all over the bed.
Wow.
And she actually was collecting them, and she showed them to me. And they were a lot of cat hairs. And this was something that had happened on more than one occasion. So that one really took me back. I said, "Wow, I couldn't have an answer for that."
Wow.
But I guess,
And you know what else?
I guess it's possible.
You know what else makes sense about what he just said? That they visit us, especially on holidays.
And
Well, she's been having this cat here the past couple nights, and she said it was a black cat. Well, what's right around? What's
Halloween.
a couple days? Halloween.
Yeah.
So there you go.
yeah, wow. Dave, okay. For the girls too, man.
Hi, and thanks, Linda.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of Mike. Like, I forgot we have our own Mike here. And I have here the easiest way. This is from your pet. The easiest way for a spirit to convey a message to anyone overcome with grief is for the pet to come in a dream, which we were talking about. Know that our pets are at peace on the other side, and they can work in many ways to let you know. And I guess that's what I expounded on when I was talking about the lady and the cat hairs.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Spirit in action. There are no such things as a coincidence. And I think all of us agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is kind of the mantra that I live by, is that when it comes to spirit, there is no such thing as a coincidence. Spirits can also influence us to do things
No,
too.
we can't see.
So for instance, if I always like to use this example, if you're driving to work one day and you suddenly feel an urge to take a different route, and you go the different route, you find out later that maybe there was a fatal car accident the way that you normally go, and that's because a spirit was influencing you to take that other route to save you.
Yes, yes. We've encountered that several times, not only ourselves, but with people that we know, we work with, and things like that. Mike has got something he wanted to discuss with you, but really quick, just before you get into it, because I want to give you enough time, Mike. You said you were in Maryland?
Yes.
Okay, where at in Maryland? Because I know I grew up I was born at St. Agnes in Baltimore City and grew up in Pasadena. But where Jim and I live now is Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, which is about a half hour north of Hagerstown.
Yep, I'm an hour and a half away from you.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Okay.
that's
We're
cool.
now-
I did not know that. That's cool.
As Jim spent almost 40 years, or just over 40 years, as a clinical pharmacist in oncology at Johns Hopkins, and I worked there for a number of years as one of his technicians. So we're both pretty familiar with the Maryland area.
Oh,
No.
wow, cool.
Now I have it here. Again, this is from your book where it's talking about if you think your pet remains earthbound. And you go into a couple points here, and I'll have you expand on whichever you care to. It says, by the way, ashes do not keep a pet's ghost or spirit in the house, just as they don't keep a human ghost or spirit in the house. But they can act as a draw for the pet's spirit to come back from time to time. If for some reason you get the feeling that your dog or cat has not crossed over, there's a couple of things you can do. The first is to call upon one of your relatives who has passed and ask them if they can take your dog or cat's ghost into the light and cross them over. That's really interesting. If you still feeling that your pet is with you, then you can envision a white light in the corner of the room. Once you begin to feel the warmth of the light, you can call on a loved one to appear. They can take a treat or a toy that your pet loved during the time that they were alive and toss it into the light to get your pet's ghost to cross into it. Your loved one on the other side will help them make that transition. Wow. So that's some tools that Rob has offered in his book about helping our pets cross.
So I actually had to do that with the dog. I had forgotten about that. Yeah, we had to open the light, and I actually had physical treats in my hand. I think they were like, I don't know, bacon treats. And we had to open a portal and have the dog and call on the relatives in spirit. And then we threw the bacon treat into the corner of the room where the portal was, and we felt the dog go in.
Wow. Because
they do what they do the same thing in death as they do in life. So
I'd like to because this is a question, a lot of people, as I said, sort of people who now this may be your friend, and this is in your chapter 6 where you talk about the questioning, and this is after euthanizing a pet. The feelings of guilt and tendency to second guess the decision made can be quite overwhelming. If you'd care to expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So I did that with our dog Sprite. After he passed, and we did this again with our dog Franklin. We had another dachshund, Franklin, who passed. He was 16. He passed in May of this year. And again, we went through the whole guilt thing afterward. Did we do it at the right time? Did we do it too early? Did we wait too long? So a friend of mine in Canada that I had emailed explaining that I was having guilt said to me, do me a favor. Tell me exactly what was going on and put it down in an email and send it to me. And then tell me what you did. So I did that. And turned around the next day and she sent it back and she said, I want you to read this email and tell me if this person did the right thing. And I realized it was my email. And I read it and I thought, yeah, I really did the right thing. So I would recommend having you, if you feel guilty about, helping your dog or cat or rabbit or horse cross, email a friend with what happened and then have them email it back to you and read it like you were reading it from somebody else.
Good advice.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, you want to?
All right. Hi, Rob. So this is Mike Simpson. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I have a good friend, Kayla Simonton, who is a teammate, and she lives in Dayton, Ohio. Actually, 1 week ago tonight, sadly, she had to make the decision to put her cat Lenny down. Lenny she had found on her doorstep about a year ago. I guess describing Lenny, help me out. I'm not good on describing here.
Kind of typical house cat, mixed color, mostly the grayish brown with some black striping to him.
Probably middle-aged.
Yeah, I would think so.
So what Kayla wanted me to ask Rob is one, do you think Lenny is with her even though he's just passed a week? And number two, once again, the question, did she make the right decision? She had gotten home from work and he had he was in pain and she didn't know what happened. She took him to the 24-hour emergency vet room, found out the health issues that he did have, sadly was going to be astronomical. And then she had to figure out the decision to put him down. So she just wants to know if he's with her and does Lenny forgive her and that she had to make that decision?
Sure. So pets always tell me on the other side that there's absolutely nothing to forgive for, because Lenny was obviously in pain and obviously couldn't have a good life the way that he was. So she actually saved him. Whether or not she knows, she actually saved him from a fate even worse. Because if she didn't take him in, he would have wandered out into the woods, and it would have been much worse for him. So he shows appreciation, and that's the thing to understand, I think, the most. And when you help a pet cross over, when they're that incapacitated, if you will, or failing that much, they show nothing but love, and they're going to be around you. So yes, Lenny is definitely around her, and she may even wherever Lenny hung out from time to time. I'm seeing kind of like a small landing atop a stairway, a short stair. That's what he's showing me. He'll mostly be there, and she may see him out of the corner of her eye, like as a quick shadow.
Wow, that's awesome. Much appreciated, Rob. I know she will definitely watch the replay and appreciate the words. So I thank you very much for her.
Sure.
One thing, I guess, with an animal, I know in working with humans and passing over, there is a time frame. I do know we have had a lot of sessions with loved ones, people's parents, cousins, friends, and all that, and I guess both Dave and I sort of believe that the time frame can be quite varied. I mean, sometimes we try never to make contact with, this isn't dealing with persons now. We try never to institute any kind of contact with someone who's recently deceased. Let's say in the first month, even 6 months. I guess most of us are given to, we feel comfortable with the time frame of a year.
Yeah.
I know in my church, I'm LDS, and we can't do work in the temples for our kindred dead till they've been past 1 year. And I honestly, I don't know why exactly that 1 year, but I know that we all have work to do when we do cross, and I don't know, maybe it's getting used to the new realm and new things. With animals, that process seems to be greatly simplified because I guess my thought is they're just sort of pure love. Their energy is a lot less encumbered with petty grievances or felt they've been wrong. They're just more of an embodiment of love and an unconditional love. And
That's true.
and so my guess is I know there's probably some time frame, but I would, I guess that frame is a lot
less.
that it's a
Yeah,
lot quicker transition.
They don't have. I'm guessing they don't have to learn how to live in a new state of being and get rid of all the
They have a lot less to forgive.
right, all the things that encumber the human experiment, as far as, like you said, petty differences, grudges, feelings of grief, feelings of I wanted to do this but never did, or I feel terrible that I left so and so all by themselves, or things like that. They don't have to deal with that. So
with are you comfortable and generally with the animals? That process can be rather quick.
Yeah, actually, it can pretty much be immediate.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that when my Weimaraner passed last Thursday, it was the next day that she started coming through to me. So even though the very first night I was in deep grief, she is strong enough to break through. And the first thing she did was she came into a dream. Now I have never dreamed of any of the other kids that passed over, my fur kids, but she came into my dream, and she assured me that she was fully healthy. And the way that she did that is, in the last couple months of her life, well, in the last year, she had to wear a diaper, like a cloth diaper, and then with a lining in it, because she was incontinent with number 1 and number 2. So at the very last month of her life, I would have to actually rub her behind to get her to go to the bathroom because she had no feeling, she had no nerve endings working anymore.
Gotcha.
Back. So in my dream, it was very short, but in my dream, I was standing there, and she was standing about 2 feet in front of me, and she turned, and I saw her look, and I heard her say in my head, "Dad, you don't have to help me anymore. I'm all healthy."
Wow.
And of course, I woke up crying, but
Sure.
I will never forget that as long as I live.
one of the viewers had a question, and I don't know if this is something you would have knowledge of or if you have an opinion on, but she said she had lost her father a few months back, and within a few weeks, I guess, of that, she started seeing a ghost cat. I mean, I wouldn't know if it's a ghost or a spirit, but she started seeing a cat that they don't have in the house. And it was that type of thing, corner of the eye, now it's gone, that type of thing. And she was curious to know if maybe that was her father coming back to see her in the form of a cat, because he knows that that's her favorite pet, is a cat.
Well, that's interesting, but generally, spirits will come back in the form that we can recognize them. So I believe that cat is not associated with him.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And the other thing too is that when spirits appear to us, they typically appear to us at the time of their life in which they were most comfortable. So my dad died at 79 years old, but every time I've dreamed of him or seen him, he appears in his mid-30s.
Yeah, that's another thing you expanded on too in the book and we believe in that I know that child I lost, I referred to. I actually had my son come through here recently in the last month. Boy, was that an emotional thing. I felt like I'd been hit with a couple boards. I mean, it was wonderful, but it was so exhausting at the same time. But he's not, I lost him as a 4-month-old child. I saw him as a 20-some-year-old vigorous young man, and a psychic that we all really are very impressed with, a local psychic, Lloyd Johnson. She was the first one a while ago in one of the investigations to tell me that my son was there with me and described him. And again, for I didn't even think of the concept that he would be with me. But we talk about being in our prime, so to speak. And you had alluded that that's the way our animals present themselves, is in their prime state.
Yes, because it's the time that they were the most comfortable in life, and that's how they want us to see them. So, and I think I wrote you too that your son came through to me today, and
wow,
didn't I say he was 20-something and he had brown wavy hair?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wasn't that the email I sent you?
Yeah.
I write so many.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the way you appear to me too.
I'll tell you, I've been going through a pretty rough time here lately. I don't know. I've never been a person to be depressed, and I've always had a real strong spiritual nature, but just a lot of things weighing down and affecting me, and I've really been having a rough time sometimes. And I really think that some of my family's, trying to come through to give me strength and understanding, and I've always been very blessed with a lot of love around me. So that means a lot, Rob. I thank you for that. I wrote a question down here. How do we become more in tune to signals or signs from our pets?
Great question. And the answer to that is to just not dismiss them, really. But what's important to know is that everybody has the ability to see these signs. So let me ask you guys, because you guys have worked with a lot of people. If you are in a group, usually you will find that there is somebody that you will want to talk to or hang out with a little bit or get to know a little better. And conversely, there's someone that you just don't feel a connection with, or you kind of avoid them or just not talk to them. Have you guys experienced that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're reading their energy. You're reading their emotional energy. And that's what mediums do. But we read the energy of people and pets who passed. So that said, you guys already have the ability to read energy. And that means everybody listening, every living thing, person or pet, has the ability to read energy of somebody else, whether alive or past.
Okay, well, that absolutely makes sense. And there's been instances where one of us may be more in tune with a certain person than another. Like, for example, there was a gentleman that we all know that right from the get-go, and this person had never really done anything negative to me or said anything negative or derogative to me or about me, but there was just something about him, just the way he carried himself, that I was cordial and I wasn't ever nasty towards him, but I just didn't feel like he blended with my chemistry as an investigator. And Jim didn't pick up on that. And then later on, as it turned out, things went awry with this gentleman. And, Jim was like, you had it right on the spot. You told me back then, and now I see it, and other people have seen it too. And vice versa. There's been times where Jim's been right about things that I never noticed. So that's why one of the things we preach as a team is chemistry. We're big believers that spirit can sense our energy, and if our chemistry, as far as the group we're investigating with, is strong and meshes well, and we're all coming at it from the same respectful point of view and that type of thing, that they can sense that. and that puts the spirits more at ease to want to communicate with us, as opposed to some of these people you see, and I'll not mention any names, that that everything's a demon, and I challenge you to come out and attack me, and all that nonsense. And you know, a lot of these people, they get negative things happen to them. They're like, well, I don't know why to attack me. Well, why do you think? You didn't treat it with respect. This isn't, you know, some entity. This is a person who just doesn't have a physical form anymore. You know, and if you came at me with that kind of disrespect, I'd want to punch in the face too. You know?
I think some of the spirits of the house have actually gathered around to hear this conversation. We've had some cases move and shift around it. We're around a large table, and it's just we're tight together. And over here we have a bunch of cases sitting on the floor, and they on occasion bop,
like
bang.
Dominoes.
Yeah. So I think the conversation's been interesting to a number of our spirit friends here.
Yeah.
I always tell people that if you have a ghost that is in your house, it's like living with an invisible roommate, and you do not want to anger them.
Yeah.
True.
That's a rule right up there with don't insult people who handle your food.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to go back for a second. How you said that you got a bad, you know, you read the energy of somebody of that gentleman, and it was right. It was right on. It just reminds me of a funny story that my husband's late partner told him. He said his grandmother used to say, "I know what I don't like about her. Her looks." And that was his grandmother, and that just always struck me as so funny.
Now, just a quick question, gentlemen. Someone on the live feed has noticed. I haven't noticed, but I was kind of staring at the screen to read comments. Have you noticed any of the lights flickering?
Yes.
Okay, because people on the live feed are seeing it as well. So.
Yeah, we've had some flickering lights. There's been nothing's become crashing down, but yeah, there's been some goings ons in this room. Then to move forward a little bit, you also discussed in here recognizing when your pet may see a spirit or a ghost. Bob talks about the acute sensitivity of these animals, while be it an increased hearing range, they see things much faster.
Their smell capabilities is so much.
Sure. I mean, they're all over us in
right.
terms of the senses. And anyhow, would you care to expand a little on that? How our pets may pick up on a spirit or a ghost in the house?
Sure, absolutely, and you know it's all about science. So I've learned that pets, I'll use dogs and cats as a baseline, have a different physiology in their eyes and their ears and their hearing. So they have different cones and rods in their eyes and humans, and that enables them to see faster movement. And you know, as you guys know, as paranormal investigators, we can use high-speed cameras to catch the movement of the spirit really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But dogs and cats can see them head on. And if you think of a dog whistle, we can't hear that frequency, but dogs can hear it. And we, you know, as paranormal investigators, we have to use digital recorders to pick up a word that a ghost will say, even if it's standing right next to us, we can't hear it, but the digital recorder picks it up. But dogs can hear it.
Yeah, and it goes. It's like you said. It goes with the scientific fact that their senses are so much stronger and more in tune. I know it's. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's some absurd number of scents that a dog's nose can pick up, where we smell, you know, 5 or 10 at a time. You know, something like that.
And all the animals, like a shark can pick up what?
Blood like over a mile away. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 1 part in 500 million or something ridiculous like that.
And same thing with their hearing. The frequency of their ears are so much greater than ours.
Yeah. Especially those that use like echolocation, like say bats, things like that. I mean, their hearing is just incredible.
I had I forget which medium it was. It was I think it was that Mary Ann Wachowski who used to do the Ghost Whisperer show. She was like a technical advisor.
Right.
And she once talked to me. We were talking about particularly dogs picking up on, spirits in a house. And she was telling me, again, I don't know if this is right or not, but it always sort of stuck with me, that if you've come into a house with your dog and that spirit is already in the house, the dog will often just accept that as being part of the house and won't necessarily react. But if a spirit comes into the house, or let's say ghost, after the fact, then the animal picks up that as something new or whatever
Something's not
and
normally
will
there.
react. I don't know if there's anything to that, but for some reason that sort of always stuck with me.
Well, I will tell you that it didn't work that way when I took our dog Dolly, the one that just passed, on a paranormal investigation to solve a mystery. So in my latest book, which is Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking,
Right.
I talk about this. We took her into an investigation at private home because they said this family of four, mother, father, daughter, and son.
Is this Cindy, the dog? Is this Cindy, the one we're talking about? The case?
This is the case of the burned ghost.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. So anyway, so it's the burned ghost, two spirits, and two spirits, and one of the spirits wound up being a dog, the family dog that had passed 6 months before. And the way that Dolly solved the mystery of one of these spirits is that when I got out of the car, she pulled me hard right to the exact house, and I didn't know where the house was, which house it was, because I couldn't read the numbers. So she was following the dog to the house, the spirit of the dog. And then when I finally let her go inside, after we walked around the first floor, I let her go. I let her leash go, and I said, "Show me." And she ran up the stairs, and she ran into the first room on the right, which was the little boy's room. And I asked if there was a significance to that. And the dad, who was there, said his dog, named Belle, I believe, always would run in the house and go right up the stairs and go in that room right there and sit, because that dog was bonded to that little boy. So Dolly followed that dog in spirit and did exactly what the dog did. We were able to solve the mystery.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. So so the spirit was there, but she still, figured it out.
Wow. That's really cool.
So there are a lot of other ways that spirits of pets can communicate with folks, and you guys being on paranormal investigations all the time, I'm sure you felt cold spots, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So as a scientist, I've come up with an explanation for why there's a cold spot whenever there is a presence in the area, and it's all based on energy. So my theory here is that what happens is the ghost or spirit will take the energy of motion of air molecules, and they will absorb that energy so they can get stronger to give you a message. And by doing that, they slow down fast-moving molecules of air, so they become slow-moving molecules of air. Fast-moving molecules of air are warm air, and slower-moving molecules of air are colder air. That's why you get a cold spot.
Oh.
See,
Interesting.
and I don't know the science behind it, but I always assumed that it was as they draw the energy out of the atmosphere around you. Heat has more energy as opposed to cold. So when they take that energy, that heat goes down to cold.
Yep, that's really just another way of saying it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome.
It's the motion, it's the speed of molecules. The molecules are moving that creates the heat.
I know we use we use a lot of times, we use EM pumps as long as it doesn't affect the if we have a psychic medium with us, as long as it doesn't affect them. I know some of them are very sensitive to that, but we've always found by using the EM pumps that we're able to oftentimes to have a little longer sessions with spirit because we're providing them some external energies. It generally takes a little less out of us because, I guess we've done enough investigations, and at my age now, energy the spirits can sometimes really suck my energy dry in a hurry. And so we do tend to use pumps a lot, not so much. It'll happen whether the pumps are in use or not, but it gives us the advantage of having slightly longer sessions and being a little less taxing on our own physical self.
Unless you drink more coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I tell you another thing in this period, I can't even hardly stand to see it. I have a lot of friends in the animal rescue, and they're always posting these dreadful situations. It seems that so many people, I guess, through their own anguish or torment in these times we're going through, the poor animal kingdom is suffering. I mean, there's just so many cases, it seems, of animal abuse, and these poor creatures are being subjected to just horrible things. And it really gets painful at times. I know that's not directly related to spirit or whatever, but I do think there's a special place in hell for those that abuse animals. I really do.
Well, that's really a sign of mental illness. It truly is a sign of mental illness because people will abuse pets, and the next thing they do is they abuse people.
Yeah.
And they really need serious psychological help if they do that. And if people have to remember that adopting a pet is a lifetime commitment. Granted, it's the lifetime of the pet, which could be 15 years, but it's a big commitment. It's not just something to have to keep you company. So I've been doing dog rescue now for about 10, 11 years. And transports and fosters and all kinds of things. And I've gone into some homes that people want to adopt a pet, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't let you adopt a pet.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've always been fascinated with was, not so much fascinated, but I've always questioned is doing what Jim and I have done for 20 years. And Mike, you're hitting number 9, almost 10. We've done this long enough to know about, like you were talking about, with the animals being able to pick up on the presence of spirits or ghosts or whatever much quicker than we can, unless it's someone who has a special gift to tune into those energies. But I'm always curious to know when they see these spirits or the ghosts, whichever form they happen to be in, and a lot of times you'll see them where they growl. Is that because they're confused as to why they're there, or is that more of a protection thing for the owner?
It may be both. So sometimes when dogs or cats will see spirit, they may act scared or defensive, and it's not because the spirit is harmful. What's going on is that the dog may be confused, because although the dog may see the spirit may not actually be generating a scent. And we know dogs are scent. The centered. So
Yes.
it takes a lot of energy to generate a scent as well as to visibly appear. And usually with spirit, there's not usually that much energy around. So they can either appear or they can make a scent. So that's why dogs can be confused when somebody shows up and they don't have a scent.
Gotcha. Okay. So that and by them not having a scent, the dog's not being able to pick that up, that lets them know something here isn't right.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in the position of a dog, I think, to try and figure all these things out.
I know you also talked in the book about that animals exhibit a lot of traits that we associate with ourselves, such as stubbornness and things like that.
Yes. Yeah, they sure do. They have. They have the same emotions that we have, the same behaviors that we have. So, absolutely.
So is that why when I'm telling my kid to clean her room and she doesn't do it, and then I tell the dog to get out of the room, he doesn't want to come out?
Hey, that could be.
So you said you're a meteorologist in addition to your abilities with pets and your novels that you're writing. Is it hard to balance that time, or is it just something okay, this I'm doing from this time to this time, and then when I get off, I have this much time to do work on my books and that type of thing, and then I'm going to dedicate this much time to my companion and that type of stuff? Is it hard to kind of balance that schedule?
Yeah, well, it certainly was in the beginning, but I've kind of learned how to do that. So what I typically do is I answer emails only on the weekends. Granted, it's family time, but I put aside a couple of hours to tune in to and give messages to people and so forth. Because I work. I work full time, and then we have dogs to take care of, and dinner to make, and all that stuff.
Are your coworkers aware of all your gifts and stuff? And I guess you get hit with a lot of questions from them.
No, actually, they're not. Because if you tell somebody in the scientific community that you can talk to these people, they would have an issue with it.
Interesting enough, David referred how I worked at Hopkins, and when we built the modern oncology center there, true story here, it used to be an Academ parking lot, and as we started to initiate the deep site construction, we started unearthing bodies. They were, simple pine coffins, and all of a sudden, human skeletal remains were everywhere. I mean, literally by the hundreds. And what we found out later was that the city of Baltimore had used that as a pauper's graveyard, and several black churches in the past had also used that as a graveyard, and it really not kept records. Nobody really knew it was such. And so we had to stop construction, and as best as we could. Right? Oh, it was 6-8 months delay, millions of dollars. And as best we could, they gave Christian burials to all the remains, but a lot of them were not intact or scattered. And so from the very beginning of opening the oncology center, we had spirits. We had there was a lot of negativity too. We had a couple young security personnel went over to the building before we'd even opened and hung themselves.
Wow.
And then I never forget, the very first night we opened, we only had 1 or 2 units open, and all the nurses on that floor were hearing cries for help. And yet every single call button was quiet, and they went bed to bed to bed, and everybody was sound asleep. Nobody was in any kind of issues. Yet they came and got me because they knew I was involved in this area, and we literally could walk on that floor and hear the cries for help, yet it wasn't emanating from any patient. And
Wow.
throughout the period, I mean, we always had things going on. I mean, I could sometimes go in a bathroom and the hot water spigots would turn themselves on, and I had the lighting and the steam on mirrors and all that stuff. So it's a pretty good hot spot. I used to carry a few pieces of equipment in with me at night, but
One of our guests wants to know, can our pets that have passed over, crossed over, be our guardian angels or spirit guides?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Good
I will
question.
tell you that my dog Buzz is actually one of my spirit guides. Buzz, the puppy that passed in 2005. Yes, absolutely. And there's a way. One of the things that I did do, occasionally I make a video or two, but I walked people through a meditation where I led them to find out who their spirit guide was. And I did it with my friend Troy, who's a medium. And everybody should kind of try and figure out who their spirit guide is. But if you have an affinity to somebody that passed, and you feel a very close relationship with them, it's most likely that they are also going to be one of your spirit guides.
Oh, very cool.
That's something I would like to know. I know I've been told that I have a rather large group of people that watch over me. And of course, you know, my son has been named by several, and but I'm really never really felt in tune to my spirit. I know they're there because
Right.
Yeah, same with me. You know,
Yeah,
I know somebody is there watching out for me and urging me to make choices in a certain direction, one way or the other. But who that is, I've never really tuned in to know. So
our spirit guides can also, like you said, can also be one of our pets.
Interesting.
Yes.
that's
I never
fantastic.
really even thought about that concept.
You know, honestly, how far are you from Gettysburg, Rob? Like, is that someplace that you'd be able to get to, you know, without too much effort?
Yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half.
Okay.
But I honestly I don't go back to Gettysburg for very good reason.
Okay.
The last time I was there, as you know, you've been to Gettysburg, right?
Oh,
Couple
several
times.
times, yeah.
We that's where we cut our teeth.
So there's so many deaths at Gettysburg between there and Antietam and so forth. And there are a lot of earthbound ghosts that walk those fields. To me, as a medium who can hear and see and feel ghosts and spirits, it's like being in a stadium with 10,000 people screaming at you at the same time.
I can believe
Yeah.
it.
It's overwhelming.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to even pick out one person, one of these soldiers that's there when I'm there. So it's really hard. I always get a super headache when I go there.
Well, you know, we were down in New Orleans last December before all this COVID hit, and
Oh my gosh.
and again, I'm not on par with you know, psychic mediums, but I am very sensitive to spirit, and there were so many spirits down there of people that had been died in the Katrina and washed out to sea, and all they wanted to have was recognition, and it was just so overwhelming. I mean, it hit me like waves. The energy was way too much for me to handle, and I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I actually was down there the 3 months before Katrina hit.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that was overpowering enough.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that there are hundreds, if not thousands of more people that are earthbound walking around down there.
Yeah, I know years ago, Dave and I went to a spot on Gettysburg Battlefield in the Culps Hill area, and there's a small. It's very unimpressive. It looks like a foot trail, but it's the remnants. It's the last remnants of earthworks that were dug by General Green's group on top of the ridge there, and we set up some cameras and filmed down the area with this was back with the old big Sony night cams and stuff.
Like 7-pound cameras.
Yeah, and what we got was probably residual energies, but it was sort of neat. We got about a 30-second clip there where you could hear the picks and shovels being applied and, them digging. And then you heard dogs. You heard the dogs barking. And you know how a lot of the regiments had a dog accompanying the regiment.
Yeah.
It was all going on there for about a good 30-second clip that was very unique and interesting.
Wow.
And then when Jim and I first got into the paranormal, it was in Gettysburg. We went to I don't even think it was called a con. It was a conference of the International Ghost Hunter Society years and years ago. And the gentleman and his wife who created that was Dr. Dave Oster and Dr. Sharon Gill. And just through going and talking to the right person on that first day, we were introduced to them and we became fast friends. And Jim and I are very hesitant to ever use the word professional in this field because I personally feel you can't call yourself a professional in a field that's based on theory and conjecture, but they taught us how to quote unquote conduct a professional investigation, to do it in a way that you're taking it seriously. The client knows you're taking it seriously. You're not just a bunch of crackpots talking to the wall and that type of thing. Well, they went everywhere in their RV with their dog, who was a corgi. And it was so interesting that after that dog passed, but before they got their next one, they would go to a location and pull into, say, a diner to go eat. And when they left their RV, they would turn records on. They'd go in a diner, eat, come out, and go back, and they would have EVPs of the dog scratching at the door to go out or whining for food, and it was their old corgi. So that was pretty much the first time Jim and I had ever actually heard of this type of thing, of our passed over pets coming back to be with us. It was very cool.
Wow. Yeah. So many people that I talked to have had experiences. So the books that I've written not only contain the experiences and readings that I've given, but they can contain experiences that others have had too. And like you, they were very surprised that they would have experiences. People have felt their pets laying against their legs at night, even though their pet had passed. One woman reported seeing a paw print in her bath mat like a month after her cat passed. And she had no idea how it could get there because she washed her bath mat.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
And by the way, for the folks that have cats, one of the things that cats like to do at night, especially at night, is to jump up on your bed and kind of pad around at the foot of your bed. And you may feel light impressions around your feet area. Cats are very famous for doing that.
You mean that stepping with their feet they do, like they're trying to fluff a pillow type of thing?
Just walking around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think dogs are more pillow fluffers.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to laugh at the end of your book. It's about the author, and Rob considers himself an average guy. You ain't no average guy. I disagree with you there.
Yeah,
you're really kind. No, I'm nothing. I'm really nothing special.
I think you're very skilled, and you have a marvelous gift, and your willingness to share it with others is quite a wonderful gesture and ability.
And I had one last question for you. We're starting to get close on time, but if it's not too much to ask, and I know sometimes some of the people who guest on the show, this is something that may be a little hard for them to discuss, but of all the times you've helped people using your gift, what would you say was the most difficult emotionally, as far as the toll it took on you, as well as the person you were helping?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, of course, reading from my own pets on the other side just made me crumble. But I think probably the most devastating one was from a dog named Clancy. I think this is my Pets in the Afterlife 2 book. And it's actually a good lesson for all pet parents, too. This woman named Elizabeth had written me, and she told me that her puppy named Clancy had passed away unexpectedly and suddenly, and she didn't know why. Clancy was a Cocker Spaniel. And she had gone out to meet a friend and left Clancy with her husband. And she got a call from her husband at 8:30, panicked that the dog was not feeling well, lethargic. She came home, called the emergency vet. They said either take the dog in right now or you can watch the dog for a couple of hours. She opted for the latter. The dog passed in 2 hours, and she had no idea what had happened. And neither did the husband. So the dog did nothing out of the ordinary. So I got in touch with Clancy, and Clancy showed me that he was eating plants. And I asked her about that. And when I emailed her back, I said, I'm getting terrible pains in my stomach because spirit will share the pain of death. And I said, he's telling me that he was eating plants, and here's a list of poisonous plants. Do you have any of these in your yard? She wrote me back and she said, I have several of these, and he loves to eat plants. And so his warning was to all pet parents, please be aware that there are poisonous plants and keep them out of reach.
Yeah.
It's devastating to me.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, I can absolutely understand how that could be emotionally the worst kind, because it's a puppy, and you've just gotten to the point where you're attached permanently, you know what I mean, in an emotional sense, and then to have something like that happen and you have no idea why or how.
What a great story to highlight the intelligence of these animals. I mean, that one sort of blows me away.
And it's also, like you said, it's an absolutely great lesson if you're considering getting a new pet, or even if you already own one. Check these types of things out, because if you got a yard, like we have an electric underground fence, no above ground fencing because it's not part of the thing in the neighborhood, but so our dogs go out and they know the area they can stay in, and it's been quite some time since we've had them go past the limits that they're supposed to, but we let them out and then we shut the door and we're still in the house, and I never thought to think about things like that. So now that's something I want to go and check for myself. Luckily nothing's happened, but
and to let you know, Rob, quite a few of the viewers tonight have expressed a lot of interest in getting a hold of your book and that. So we're going to post up on our site. We'll post up that information and stuff. In the back of your book, you have a whole host of, you say if you have questions or stories, so you gather stories that people might have to share with you. And you post a number of sites to get in touch with you. What if we have people express an interest in getting a story to you, what would be the best way for them that you feel most secure with them contacting you?
Maybe just do it by email. So my email is rgutro@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yep.
So for all our viewers tonight, because several have several have messaged in stories that they've had concerning their pets and all that. If you feel so inclined, Rob seems to be always getting material, and we look forward to your new book coming out. And so we'll post that. We'll post that as well. So that's R Gutro, Gutro @gmail.com. If you have a question or if you have a story you'd like to give Rob, I'm sure he'd like to hear it. And it's been fantastic. I told you it'd be a fast couple hours.
Really
I can't believe
fascinating.
it's already past.
I know. And we certainly we look forward to your new book coming out, and we'll have to have you back on, because I know this, as I said, this is a subject that's ongoing. We draw such tight bonds to our pets, and our questions are always very basic and very similar. And it's our finding throughout. Love is eternal. That's one thing we constantly harp on. But our involvement in the paranormal.
And the other thing too is, and Jim, you and I and Mike, we've all experienced this, that unfortunately in the paranormal field, there's a lot of infighting. I think you should run an investigation this way. No, you're wrong. You should run it this way. I believe this. Well, you're wrong. You should believe that. All that nonsense, all this superfluous crap. But the passing of a pet and the desire by any animal lover and animal owner, whether former or current, to contact that pet again, whether it be in a dream or just to feel it brush up or get a smell of something. Maybe your dog liked a certain dog shampoo and you could always remember that smell. I think that transcends all of that other stuff, and that's something everybody in the field would be on board with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can't thank you enough for availing us of your time and being willing to host the questions from our audience. It's like I said, what you do is a wonderful thing and brings a lot of comfort to a lot of people. And
we need more of that.
And I've certainly, boy, I as much as I enjoyed reading your book, talking with you and getting even more insight, there's a lot of food for thought here, stuff that I had really never even considered before. But it makes perfect sense. And
I hope we can talk again, because there's so much more to share.
Yeah, I knew we would just scratch the surface. I mean, it always happens. We've been so blown away by the number of gifted persons that we've through this media we've been able to come in contact with and share that with the audience. And I thank you so much for what you do and your willingness to share your gift.
I just wanted to say thanks to Rob. Fascinating to get to know and learn a little bit about yourselves. And thanks again for reading about Lenny for my friend Kayla. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot. Awesome.
Sure, my pleasure. And if any of you guys are in Gettysburg, you just call me and I'll I'll surround myself with a lot of chocolate so that I'll
our teammate Janet, who's on the West Coast, she has a very difficult time. We're up there. She just sees the young men lining up and they want her to pass a message home to their mothers, that I'm here, I'm whatever. And she can't even look in certain directions. It's just too intense and overwhelming. And I all of you psychic mediums, I mean, my gosh, I have the utmost respect for what you do and your gift and how you have to ground yourself and stuff, because I crumble under any of that intensity.
But we have our friends, dear friends of ours, own the Gettysburg Ghost Exchange, which is right in town. just off the main road. It's actually in the same building as Mark Nesbitt's store.
You know, the author of the various Ghosts of Gettysburg series.
So, and Pam herself is a bit sensitive. She's a Reiki master. So, yeah, anytime that you have spare time, like you said, you know, your weekend is your family time, and we would never think to intrude on that. But anytime that you have some free time, I think they would be fascinated to have you at the store and just to talk, you know.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you and meet you tonight. And like I said, I felt very open inviting you back for round two, because
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks so much for spending some time. I know our viewers loved it, and they just couldn't get enough. So, thanks for sharing your time and your gift. And you make sure you have a safe and a happy weekend, and enjoy the Halloween.
All right, you two guys, thank you for your time and for having me on, and I look forward to talking with you next time.
thank
All
you
right,
so
thanks,
much.
Rob. Be
Thank
safe,
you.
Rob.
Good night.
Bye-bye now.
Well,
Wow,
that's
what
an amazing guy.
Fascinating, yeah.
truly amazing.
Wow.
And I think you really struck the nail on the head when you said there's so many people that have this ability, and not so many that are willing to share that ability
That's the
freely.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess to an extent I can understand, because every time they do that, like remote viewing or something, it takes a little bit out of you. So I can understand them
And you know,
not wanting to be as open as they can
I'll
be.
tell you
But
what,
somebody like that,
they do as much to bring comfort to people as psychiatrists. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
seriously.
absolutely.
These are things
As long
that
as you're
are so-
open-minded to it, you know what I mean?
are so pressing on us. So it's great, guys. Stay tuned over the weekend. We should have a couple live sessions
several
both
live
tomorrow
feeds,
and
yeah.
Saturday. And we may even, from what we understand, the house is active during the day.
Yeah.
So we'll
most
probably have
definitely.
a couple day sessions, which is sort of neat.
Yeah, and we'll have, unfortunately, Mike won't be here. He's got an event at the
Fairfield County
Fairfield
Infirmary.
County Infirmary.
Friday, Saturday.
Now,
night.
that is also owned by Adam of
Kimmel.
Adam
Madison
Kimmel from
Seminary.
Adamson Seminary. Both places I'd like to get to, but, you know,
Hopefully
once
next
again,
year.
the whole time and money thing.
And we'll
But-
put in a plug. We're going to put in a plug for Miss Lynn. And
Yes.
this is the Harrison Bed and Breakfast.
Harrison House Bed and
Columbus,
Breakfast.
Ohio.
And
Columbus,
it is
Ohio.
on the National Registry of Historic Places.
And I can tell you, just while we're doing the show, the spirits are down here with
Yep,
us.
I actually, when you guys heard the noise, the yellow top I saw that
Wow.
going. So
Yeah, they're
we've had
here.
furniture and equipment moved.
And
Feel the coolness.
and
This
yeah.
this is how excited we were about this weekend. Let me move the camera just a sec. We actually even brought out the whole
The old
DVR system over there. We got the communication center going up. So Mike will be helping me run cables in a little while. We've got at minimum 8 cameras, if not more, depending what we need where. I mean, we still got our my beauties, the Solo X's.
They're ready to
So
go.
they're probably going to go up
Except
in
one
the
that's
top
so
level
long.
where where I don't have the length of cable to get up there, and we'll keep the wired cameras on the lower level and the
Right.
next level, so we don't have as far of a wire run to go. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We really enjoyed it. We hope you did too. As soon as we have a chance to get Rob booked to come for a return appearance, we will do that, and we will let him know. Next week is the 1 hour show, and then after that is
We will have Miss Lloyd Johnson.
yep. So and I know there was 1 or 2 people that came in tonight, and they, I guess they just weren't aware that Rob specialized in communicating with their
Right.
pets, and they had a couple questions, and so I told all of them, tune back in to our 2 hour show in November. We'll have Lori Johnson, and she'll be able to assist you with those things. So everybody, stay safe. Stay happy, stay healthy, enjoy Halloween as best you can, and depending on the restrictions in your area, and stay spooky. And we'll see you during live feeds the rest of this weekend. Have a
Yeah.
great night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
And thank you, Spirit, for